Hello, my name is Stuart Bell. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing at Glider Technology Limited. Welcome to the Glider Cafe. It's my great pleasure to introduce Glider's submission for the JOSCAR SME Innovation Award. And specifically, I'll be talking about how we've delivered game-changing innovation to positively disrupt the supply chain. Glider are an information management consultancy service provider and software vendor. We help organizations in and around the built environment to deliver capital projects and then to operate and leverage best value from those built assets and wider estates. Principally, we work with two client types. Major asset owners. Here's a number of leading brands that you may recognise. This submission will be focused on the Defence Infrastructure Organisation, and also their connected supply chain highlighted here. So as well as asset owners, we work with principal contractors and lead appointed parties that could include architects, design consultants or project managers. In 2018, we were approached by the Ministry of Defence and specifically the Defence Infrastructure Organisation to respond to a tender. Defence Infrastructure Organisation, they're the estate expert for defence. They have got about 150,000 facilities on 2% of the UK's landmass, so a very substantive asset owner, and actually a major work giver to the industry as well. At the time that we tendered for a project with the DIO, they were already several years into what was quite a progressive transformation, and we started with them when they put a problem statement to the market, which highlighted a number of challenges with the delivery of projects and the operation and running of assets, and how they could do that in a collaborative way whilst maintaining compliance, but importantly, to in-source information into their own organisation, data and documentation that had historically sat out with contractors and facilities management organisations who had either built or were operating facilities on their estate. And one of their key challenges were, how do they answer everyday questions? So how many DAL air handling units do we have across the built assets in our global estate? When were they last serviced and when do they need replacing? And that's quite a challenge if you've got a plethora of hard copy information that's either sat out in your external supply chain or it's in archive locations dotted around in facilities in your global estate. But equally, it's a challenge when your supply chain, who are responsible for delivering the physical built assets, as well as the handover information, are doing that in a fairly traditional way. So the DIO recognised that something had to change. And to simplify the challenge, we've got on the left-hand side the data delivery past, the lots of issues sat out in supply chain, information everywhere, and that blue line recognising being highlighted as the contract boundary, and the DIO wanting to ensure that project and asset information was managed in order that they could clearly communicate requirements, capture information as it comes into them from their supply chain, validate and verify that data against their requirements, and then connect that to other operational systems in order that they could leverage analyze and leverage insights that then would recycle back. But the major challenge with traditional approaches is that there are a number of data and knowledge silos in the organization, and I'm sure you've all come across this in your business lives, where there are even individual experts in the organization that are keepers of the fiefdoms or the major systems that might have operational data. So we have to go to Bob or Sue with our questions to get answers to the information. And that was resulting in a number of failures. And some of these failures have been highlighted globally, and I'm just putting some up on screen here. And when we look at the root cause, some of this can be down to ill-defined requirements, resulting in major variations, scope creep, increased cost, and delays in programs, which clearly have an operational impact to somebody like the Ministry of Defence and the Defence Infrastructure Organisation looking to deliver facilities. So the solution, DIO as a government organisation, and back in 2016 the government mandated building information modelling, a process approach underpinned by technology and the empowerment and enablement of people around industry to work in a more coherent way, not too dissimilar to other major industries like automation. And BIM promised many things, the promised land, but in reality, the education from the initial mandate wasn't fantastic. So in essence, it was like teaching industry Mandarin, thinking about how could we get suppliers to respond and to describe information, data, documentation, drawings, model files on projects or on the delivery of existing assets. How could we support the delivery? So in terms of the journey for Glider, we were successful in securing a tender for an initial 6-month Pathfinder project, where we looked to resolve a number of those initial requirements for what the DIO at the time thought they wanted was a common data environment, a BIM common data environment, to meet the government BIM industry mandate. And over that 6-month initial engagement, it was evident from working closely with Glider that a number of opportunities surfaced, and as a result, there was a slight tack or change in direction. At the same time, the strategy for defence infrastructure defined a new strategy, and it was centred around the need for accurate data and management information in order that that was timely, relevant, accessible, secure, and appropriate. In summary, it could be trusted then to be used to take better operational decisions. And out of the initial Pathfinder, the DIO highlighted quite a number of challenges, and notably the common denominator here just highlighted being around data and the clear communication of defined requirements out to their suppliers. Within that 6 months, there was also a recognition that the BIM CDE project that Glider had embarked on was actually part of a wider federated data architecture. And in order to get all systems speaking consistently with one another, it was key that Glider had a role to play in helping to define or put definition into the language of how project and built asset information was described, to ensure other systems and project stakeholders and participants could benefit and reference that information. So the DIO, with this whole wealth of data, deluge of data, if you like, looked to Glider to see how they could better communicate out their requirements and to manage and ingest that information from suppliers into their organisation, such that it could be trusted, leveraged, and exploited. So the AIM CDE allows the DIO to connect to supplier systems, but it also prepares them for a digital twin future. And the AIM CDE provides that digital backbone, formwork and framework, the information model that's needed to federate other data sets that might be used to drive insights. So we move from static to federating dynamic data about the actual performance of the estate. But what was key here is that for DIO is historically they hadn't put a lot of focus on information exchange over regular intervals of the project, and notably at handover. So the technology had to support better validation of information coming in, such that could then be controlled against the information value chain approach of defining requirements, collecting information, storing it immutably with its audit trail, transforming that data, analysing in order that it could be exploited. And so the platform for the first time was articulating clear requirements. It was saying very specifically against the DAL air handling unit what asset information the operational team needed to successfully manage that asset within its estate, and also to control and work with the external FM contractors who'd be responsible for maintaining that. The platform provides a very clear post box for the delivery of information requirements, and as those information requirements come in, they're checked at source against the DIO's requirement through the platform. So the extract, transform, and load workflows are using compute power to ensure that all of the information coming across the contract boundary at handover complies with the DIO's precise requirements. The system also eradicates that age-old "I'll just chuck a value in terms of classifications of information. It puts standardization and uniformity in. It provides a robust backbone in terms of information security, not only at its network perimeter and the application interface layer, but internally right down at a granular level when we're talking about supporting different security classifications at a document and data layer as well. It helps the DIO to manage the increasing regulation and compliance, and most recently the Building Safety Bill. And the DIO has quite a number of high-rise buildings, residential buildings that single living accommodation, for instance, that house the armed forces, the troops. And so ensuring compliance with, for instance, fire safety information is critical. The platform supports that. It prepares and provides future readiness for smart buildings and intelligent building technologies that are starting to emerge, looking at things like the information flows from CO2, occupancy, movement, sensors, as well as energy performance data that we can already get from meters on the built estate as well, and we can derive new insights. And the platform itself then presents a very clean interface for supply chain partners to upload information, to collaborate, to provide workflows with the client for approval, to navigate and view information all through the platform. So thin client system here. No additional software needed to review and mark up information through the platform. No additional software needed indeed to look at 3D information. Very useful to see data and documentation in context. And over on the right-hand side, as we select assets within the 3D model view, it immediately gives operational teams access to all the related data, documentation, and other system links. So from an air handling unit here, we can pivot out to a building management system, possibly even into a computer-aided facilities management system as well. Or if we want to look at the operational maintenance manual and the user guides, we can get directly into the document management side of the platform as well. And safe in the knowledge that all of that data and information that's come across the contract boundary from multiple contractors and design teams has all been validated to say that it complies with the requirements. And that validation can be progressively assured across the project lifecycle until it reaches the approved status at handover and it migrates into the establishment workspace where all of the asset information is held. We're very proud now that DIO are an active case study reference for us, not only for other government departments, but they're such a progressive organisation that quite a number of major asset owners with a broader portfolio and wider estate look to them as well. We attended the DPRTE conference just a couple of months ago, and Lee Taylor here talked about enabling SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises, setting a target of 25% of procurement spend from the MOD, and that mirrors down into the DIO, should go directly into SMEs. And it's fantastic that they're already hitting that target, in fact, pushing themselves further. And that opens up the supply of built assets to a smaller local supply chain as well, which again sits right in the heartland of social value for DIO as well. They've evolved their information management requirements, and they're talking very specifically about information capture and how they can better support their industry partners. And by industry partners, that could be design teams, contractors, or facilities management providers that work in and around the estate. And notably for the DIO with the project that Glider is supporting, the data deliverables on that as well. The DIO have a vision for the future, and it's very much a data-driven future as well. And as the new strategy and platforms land, and as the supply chain get used to the enhanced requirements from DIO, and the DIO delivery teams get used to the management of information, the quality of data will improve over time, such that it will lean into the defence estate of the future. The project has already started to pick off many other initiatives. I mentioned earlier, as we move towards smart, there's a number of things that that Glider are engaged in and around, not only to support the education of, but then the enablement and mobilisation of these smart technologies and the information sat in and around those technologies as part of the AIM CDE and project that Glider are on. And so it's key to a progressive Ministry of Defence that they're supported by their organisation, so Defence Infrastructure Organisation, and that they leverage and harness cyber secure platforms and open, interoperable and secure working. And in fact, the Government Industry Interoperability Group have recognised this themselves and have defined, amongst other things, of an information management protocol, an information management platform approach as well. The Glider architecture sits very well with the GIG approach, and the GIG have consultants looking and working with DIO to help shape that digital future for them as well. In terms of social value and how that's reflected on Glider, through lockdown we doubled in size. Many of that was fueled by the great work that we're doing with the DIO, helping them with their very progressive strategy. And we've done all that as a virtual business as well. So as a fully remote business, it's significantly reduced travel, but we're also using collaborative interface. So for the DIO, we're enabling better project working through the platform as well. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening into the submission. We hope that helps meet the brief, and we welcome any feedback at a later stage.